Hey, welcome into another midday mock. Hopefully, for those of you that were around with us last week, we get a little bit better luck with the technical difficulties, if hopefully we don't have any at all. But appreciate you guys being here midday, midweek. It's Wednesday. The only way to get through a Wednesday is to do a mock draft. And today we're doing a 12-team Superflex. Hopefully the lobby fills up just a little bit, but we do have 6 of us here, so might be a quicker draft than normal, but we're going to kick things off with a couple hype pieces that came out today, as well as updating you on the opt-outs. The deadline is tomorrow. Midday mock. Yes, easy. Good to have you here, my brother, as always. I'll go through the hype pieces first. First piece of news coming up, Bruce Arians, head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, comes out today and says, really pleased with what he sees in Ronald Jones. He's looking great. Packed on some muscle. He is going to be the lead guy for the Tampa Bay Bucks, kind of putting some of the hype trains on Keyshawn Vaughn to rest. And LaShawn McCoy also signed there, if you were unaware. That kind of puts that to bed as well. But the caveat here for Ronald Jones will be if he can expand on his role from last year. We did see at times where Ronald Jones would come out and be the starter over Peyton Barber after a great performance the previous week and then be benched midway through the first quarter, and we're all kind of sitting there scratching our heads as to why. It came out that Arians saw Ronald Jones miss a few key blocks in either pass protection or elsewhere, and subsequently took him off the field, benched him for missing those key assignments. He has said that he wants him to expand on his roles last year, primarily pass catching, but doing other things on the field to help the team win. So I think really for Ronald Jones, the narrative is much the same, but his biggest obstacle in Peyton Barber is gone. So hopefully keys to the backfield means good things, but we'll see. Another piece of hype news is that Austin Hooper, after being traded from Atlanta to Cleveland, has spent the last 3 weeks at Baker Mayfield's place in Austin, Texas, working out for the summer, building that chemistry. So for those Austin Hooper truthers out there who are hoping that he can return to tight end 1 status like he did so much of last year, that's in the works. The gears are turning on that story. The other piece is that Marquise Brown has apparently put on 23 pounds over the offseason. 23 pounds of lean muscle that is productive weight is almost impossible. And so I'm thinking maybe this hurts his speed a little bit, but we'll see. Guys, for me, when I hear these news, I want to see it. I also want them to pass my eye test. So if I see week 1, Marquise Brown is burning people down the field, it's not going to matter how much weight he put on or lost. But typically, if receivers are gaining weight, not the greatest thing. If running backs are gaining weight, I typically like that. Don't like them to go down. Do like wide receivers to lean out if possible. Deontay Johnson also says he's 100% after having surgery to rid a hernia. Some opt-out news. Oh, there's one. Sorry, before I go into opt-out, if you were silly like me and you put some fab down on Jeremy Hill after being signed by the Raiders, they have decided to cut him days after signing him. So, for those guys holding Josh Jacobs or Lynn Bowden and thinking, maybe I'll get a little bit of insurance piece this year, you're going to have to look elsewhere because Jeremy Hill, not the guy. Kenny Golladay has been activated off the COVID-19 list. Not really sure if he had it or was close to someone who had it, but that's news. Albert Wilson has joined Allen Hurns in opting out, so the Dolphins are getting fairly thin at wide receiver. Could mean more targets for Devontae Parker. Travis Benjamin also has opted out. He is now with the 49ers, but will sit the season out. And then for those of you waiting on the Antonio Brown news, the Seahawks are monitoring the situation. He would serve an 8-game suspension at minimum, could be the full season, depending on what happens with his legal case. But the Seahawks have also said that they are open to returning Josh Gordon to the roster. So lots going on there in the NFL over the next 24 hours. We'll really get a sense of of what's to come for this year. But a lot of uncertainty. I think the NFL is in a fair bit of trouble, unfortunately, but just based off what the MLB has been doing. But fingers crossed that they find a way to make it happen. But so that pretty much does it on the updates. I think we're ready to start mocking here, fellas. So I'm going to jump over to Sleeper and we're going to get this thing underway. We are doing some Superflex at a good time because we just released our scoring for the 2020 Listener League, which we are up to 14 people. So we're going to be doing some 14-team mock drafts fairly soon. Brad, don't worry, we'll get that in. We're doing Superflex today, just a 2 QB league, 15 rounds, no kicker, no defense, half PPR. So should be fun. Superflex is a great format for those of you that have never done it before. It really opens up the draft in the earlier rounds, and you really have to pay attention to quarterback runs. So we're going to get this thing kicked off, and I find myself, unfortunately, between two very savvy drafters in Eric, Easy Daddy, and Brad, Chelly Darton. So I'm in for a treat here today. Now, in a Superflex, for those of you looking here and going, whoa, Patrick Mahomes went before Christian McCaffrey. Look, when you can start two quarterbacks, that is a tremendous amount of upside and value that you can have at that position. So going Patrick Mahomes and then maybe pairing him with another elite quarterback coming back is a viable strategy. The opposite to that is saying, you know what, I'm going to wait on quarterback and try to pick up like a Jared Goff, a Matt Ryan, and a Derek Carr, and sort of stream the three of them in favorable matchups and get one of those, stream-worthy plays to match what a Patrick Mahomes would give to you. But without a doubt, no shock for me to see Pat Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, Russell Wilson, Dak Prescott going off the board within the first two rounds in most Superflex leagues. In the Scotty Fish Bowl, very similar scoring formats, also a tight end premium. But quarterbacks, we saw 8 quarterbacks go in the first 15 picks. So basically every other pick was a quarterback. It happens. And Superflex is unpredictable, and that's why it's so great, because it really opens up the draft for people to employ the strategies that they want to. I'm up on the clock here, about 30 seconds. Devontae Adams just went. String of quarterbacks, and Deshaun Watson would be a nice play here, but my strategy here is always hold off and see what the draft does. So only 2 quarterbacks have gone. There's value at other positions. I'm going to take a guy that I really like in Nick Chubb, and I know that Brad is really going to want Nick Chubb here, so I'm just going to pull the rug right underneath him, and we're going to continue this little back and forth that Brad and I have been enjoying so far this season. So we'll see what he does. Derrick Henry, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson at the turn. So, that's really going to be something that you have to become accustomed to seeing in these Superflex drafts. Like, is it crazy to think that someone would take Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson? A little bit. I think you're leaving some value, especially at the running back position, but it's not crazy. It really isn't. It's more of a strategic play. Comes back to me. I would love to go Josh Jacobs just to start strong. Quarterbacks are going, and I could regret this if there's a quarterback run, but I'm going to stay strong and go Josh Jacobs. Really, really like his talent and the year that he could have, and so that's where I'm going to put my money. Now, we've got Chelly, Easy, Taylor, and Buck are all Listener League competitors. Josh, I believe we met off Twitter. So, Josh, thank you so much for coming in and hanging with us today. Mock drafting. I don't know if you have any Superflex leagues coming up, but hopefully this gives you a little bit of help. He went Lamar first. Love the pick, especially if you are in a league that gives full points for quarterback rushing. I know some leagues have started to adopt the 1 point for every 25-yard rushing for quarterbacks, just to nerf some of the, Lamar Jackson, esque players who are so productive on the ground. Like Lamar Jackson last year was a quarterback 2 with a running back 1 mixed into him. So you're really getting a 2-for-1 there with him at the quarterback position. So far, the starts here, I do like that Buck sort of went off the board and went Travis Kelce. I don't know if he's actually drafting. I don't see him online at the moment, but Zeke, Travis Kelce is a great start. I mean, you got a locked and loaded running back 1, and you've got a tight end 1. And in our listener league, we are tight end premium in a tiered PPR. So having Travis Kelce will be a distinct advantage at the tight end position. I wouldn't be surprised to see teams go double tight end to start, because you get 2 flex spots and you have to start a tight end. So you could be starting 2 tight ends per week, as you see Taylor here going George Kittle, another fantastic play. Not so sure I like the easy pick of going Aaron Rodgers in the 3rd. I think that's giving up too much value, and I know that he's probably not drafting right there, so he's gonna be on me for that. He didn't mean to or whatever. I know he is on his way home from work most likely, but we'll give him a pass on that. Looking at what I've got here, 4 quarterbacks have gone off the board. Kyler Murray would have been one that I would have really liked to get. And Amari Cooper, Cooper Kupp, Adam Thielen, all nice possession receivers. I am really buying into the Odell Beckham Jr. Return. But I'm going to go Allen Robinson here. I love A-Rob. Solid receiver. Been a favorite of mine for years. And if you've been checking out any of our posts on social media, on Twitter, on Instagram, at @snap_fantasy, as you see above me here, you'll know that we've loved Allen Robinson throughout the years, throughout the offseason. We've taken a deep dive into his metric, and if you look at his success versus man, versus zone, press coverage, he's basically unguardable, and he's done so with a slew of really, in my opinion, below average quarterbacks in the NFL. And, he's going to continue to do that because he's a target hog. He's a sure-handed receiver. And, I mean, what's not to love in Allen Robinson? DJ Moore, I believe, here at the top of my rankings. However, like I said, I do like the Odell Beckham Jr. Resurgence. I really do. I think he's being undervalued this year. I'm taking him a bit early, but at that sort of late end of the turn, I kind of have to reach for players that I want, and he's certainly not going to come back to me. So I would be considering here DJ Moore as a second, but I'm going to go Odell Beckham Jr. and really build a nice little receiver core there with Beckham Jr., Chubb, Josh Jacobs, and Allen Robinson. I think we have a really solid start, and Chelly's gone off the board here. Drew Brees, Matt Ryan. I don't know what happened to you. It might be that country internet, but you've auto-drafted yourself into a hole, and I'm just going to take that win. Got a little strawberry lemonade today. Subway, not a sponsor yet. Put it in the chat right now for those of you that are here. What's your favorite go-to drink when you're at a restaurant? Strawberry lemonade is up there for me. All right, let's look at this draft. Josh is putting together a solid team. Lamar Jackson, Miles Sanders, Kenyon Drake, Todd Gurley. Now, the Todd Gurley piece worries me a little bit. He said he's not going to hold out, but that's not a thing for certain. But as of right now, he's ready to go in Atlanta. They've had a good run of, obviously, production through the air with Matt Ryan and Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley. But now he has less competition as Mohamed Sanu's gone. We don't know who the next guy is to step up. Austin Hooper is gone. I know they have Hayden Hurst, but those are big shoes to fill. So I would look at Todd Gurley to get a lot of receiving work this year in Atlanta. So I like the Todd Gurley pick, especially in the middle of the 4th round. 3 running backs and a solid QB1 to start in a Superflex league is great, and there's so much value at the wide receiver position that picking up DJ Moore in the middle of the 5th is almost criminal. I can't believe that DJ Moore fell that far. I think it's a little bit crazy that he's going behind guys like DK Metcalf and Stephon Diggs. Don't get me wrong, Stephon Diggs, hell of a talent, but he finds himself in one of the lowest volume passing offenses in the league, and Josh Allen is a run-first quarterback if he could be. The Bills are a run-first offense, just not loving DJ Moore going that far down. I would have picked him far ahead, especially a guy like Deebo Samuel going at the 412 should not be there. He is on the pup, and he's probably gonna miss the first six games of the year if he's not ready to return. They have to leave him on the pup, so not looking good. When you guys get into drafts here and you see a run of wide receivers, the best thing that I can do right now is pivot and go elsewhere, because there's been 6 straight wide receivers go off the board, and when a run starts, you don't want to grab the end of the run. You want to go elsewhere and pivot and grab value. And so I'm not going to go T.Y. Hilton or DJ Chark. As much as I'd love to get another receiver, I'm going to pivot. And so I'm going to look at either David Montgomery or David Johnson. And David Montgomery is one of those players that I've really enjoyed studying, because when you look at him last year, he had more rushing attempts than Todd Gurley. He ran just as many routes as Todd Gurley. He was more productive on the ground than Todd Gurley. The only thing that separated Gurley and Montgomery last year was getting into the end zone, which is the hardest thing to predict in fantasy football. And so really, when I look at projecting a player for future years, I say, what is the potential workload that will return to this player? And David Montgomery has no one in his backfield to steal touches from him. Does Tariq Cohen take away from his receiving floor? Absolutely. Tariq Cohen has had, I believe last year he had 100 targets. He's more of a move wide receiver that lines up in the slot more than he does in the backfield. And so David Montgomery is locked and loaded for 240, 250 carries. No doubt Chicago wants to run the ball, especially when you have Foles and Trubisky there. No one really going to, in my opinion, jump out and take that lead role. So David Montgomery is locked and loaded for the work. Now, if he gets into the end zone or not, that's going to determine if he's going to be a running back 3, a running back 2, or potentially a fringe running back 1. Yes, that's crazy, but not too many guys in the league get 240 plus carries. So Kareem Hunt would have been a guy that I would have went to, and that's a solid pick by Brad. He knows that I like Kareem Hunt, and I would have taken Kareem Hunt there if he had fallen to me. So I'm back to the drawing board. I'm going to peek at quarterback quickly. Daniel Jones, Tom Brady, Jimmy G, Jared Goff, Matt Stafford. I'm going to take one more gamble and see what comes back to me in the 7th round. This could really, really hurt my team, but I do like the value on DJ Chark here as my wide receiver 3. So to start this draft, I'm fairly balanced. I'm Nick Chubb, Josh Jacobs, Allen Robinson, OBJ, David Montgomery, and DJ Chark. I think a solid start to this draft. We'll see what comes back to us. Raheem Mostert's a nice pickup there. Let's jump into the chat. Josh McD94 says, can be root beer, but regular beer gets it done. I don't disagree on either account. My favorite root beer would definitely be Barks root beer. Close second, A&W. If you go to an A&W and you sit down and you have it in the frosted mug, fantastic. I mean, you can't beat that. But regular beer certainly does get it done too. And I love root beer. I also like Mountain Dew. If you ever go to like Taco Bell, Baja Blast though, they took it away in Canada. Not loving that. Strawberry lemonade, good play though. Mark Andrew Zachers going off the board. Josh, man, putting together a solid draft. DJ Moore in the middle of the 5th, and then Mark Andrews in the middle of the 7th. Whoa. And that's something that I could have looked into. I could have gone with a positional advantage to make up for my lack of of quarterbacks, but I'm really starting to pay the price here at quarterback where, Tom Brady and Jones and Jared Goff and Stafford would have been guys that I would have, tried to roster. Now Phillip Rivers goes. I'm behind the 8 ball here at quarterback. And not to say that I'm desperate, but I mean, I'm now facing guys like Kirk Cousins and Ryan Tannehill and Drew Lock as my QB1s in a 2 QB league, and that's not what you're looking for. One dart throw that I could take here would be Ben Roethlisberger, assuming that Big Ben can have a full year of health. I mean, the dude will throw for 600 plus attempts. So it's not entirely out of the question that he could have a great year. Gardner Minshew is another one that's sort of said by most that he's going to have a good season. I sort of disagree, and Cam Newton going 1 pick before me really kind of puts me on tilt here. I took a gamble, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 quarterbacks went, and we were already sort of in a gross territory. So just based off ADP, I'm going to say that Big Ben's going to come back to me. And so I'm going to go ahead and take Kirk Cousins sucks, man. Accurate, good for football, not great for fantasy. I'm going to go Big Ben. I maybe waited on quarterback too long, but this is why you mock draft. You do so that you don't make these mistakes when it comes around and you have a better idea of what the gamble's going to be. Now, granted, there are 6 auto-drafted teams in this lobby, and so this is the suggested place for quarterbacks to go, but I've been a part of drafts where quarterbacks haven't gone for 4 or 5 rounds, and I've also been a part of drafts where quarterbacks have flown off the board, and you're really forced early to say, am I going to buy in on quarterbacks that aren't worth as much, or am I going to take positional advantages at wide receiver, running back, and tight end? And that's why Superflex is so great, because it puts you in these positions where you have to make decisions. And in a situation like this where you've got 60 seconds to do so, tough. Shelly Darton coming in. Pink Whitney with some Mike's Hard Blue Freeze on the golf course. Connoisseur. He really is. And I guess I can't see that Bradley is online, but he still is. So I don't take back what I said about your picks, because some of them were egregious, but not terrible. I'm going to go for an upside play, someone who I believe could have a big season. Both my quarterbacks are kind of in the same kind of spot, but I'm going to go Joe Burrow for the upside in what seems to be a revamped Cincinnati offense with a lot of weapons. I mean, we're talking Joe Mixon, the return of A.J. Green, the drafting of T. Higgins. There's a lot there. There really is. Tyler Eifert has moved on from the team. And I don't know who their tight end is right now off the top of my head. It might be Hushmanzada. I don't know. I don't want anything there. But Joe Burrow comes in and has a lot to work with. He really does. I mean, Tyler Boyd's been great. Auden Tate is another one that is fighting for a roster spot, but has been fantasy viable the last couple seasons. So it's tough to say, but I do think that he has a lot to work with. And for those of you that haven't maybe listened to the podcast recently, Landon and I were talking about Joe Burrow and his opportunity, and he reminds us of when Andy Dalton entered the league and got that same Bengals team that was locked and loaded with tight end 1 and Tyler Eifert and Jeremy Hill, and AJ Green was still around and kicking. He had Marvin Jones. Like, Andy Dalton wasn't an amazing talent, but he found himself in a good position to be fantasy relevant. I know, Cincinnati Bengals haven't really won anything notable in the last decade, but Andy Dalton was fantasy relevant, and Joe Burrow is a fantastic quarterback. 6,000 yards, 60 touchdowns in his final season at LSU, which is going to be heralded by most as one of the best, if not the best, collegiate team of all time in NCAA history. So Joe Burrow is one hell of a talent and comes in with a slew of weapons to use at his disposal. And we'll see. We'll see what the season makes out of itself. If you guys are watching the YouTube stream right now, I know there's only a handful of you, but we only have 2 likes, and it would mean the most to me, as well as my co-host Landon, who couldn't be here, and Scott as well, for a like. So if you're here kicking it with us, make sure you give us a like. And if you do enjoy the stream to the point where you want to see more, click the red subscribe button. We're going to be doing mocks for the entirety of August to help you guys prepare for any leagues that you have upcoming, and we certainly want you to be a part of those. So make sure that you subscribe. Back on to Taylor. He took J.K. Dobbins in the previous round, and that's another player that we are big on for this coming season. J.K. Dobbins is a fantastic talent, finds himself in the most run-heavy offense in the league, and can't say better things. If he gets the lead role by mid-season, I think you've got a league winner going into the playoffs. I truly, truly do think so. But even if he doesn't, Mark Ingram has worked really well in a tandem before. We've seen it with Alvin Kamara, and J.K. Dobbins is much more of a pass catcher than Mark Ingram is. Even though Mark Ingram's pretty, I wouldn't say solid, but mediocre. He's middle of the road for what you'd expect for a running back. J.K. Dobbins is a great pass catcher, so he'll be used in that part of the game. All right, I've rebounded nicely. My team's balanced, and I could be looking at tight end here. However, there's still, guys within the same-ish tier. I don't really like Gronk, but you could go Hooper, Hawkinson, Fant, Higbee, Howard, Goddard, Hurst. I like all of these guys equally, and I don't think that anybody really jumps out. I think Hayden Hurst might have the highest ceiling out of that group. So I'm going to look to wide receiver, see if I can pick anything up here, and CeeDee Lamb is on the board, and that's another rookie player that could break out this year. I mean, Dak Prescott had a fantastic season last year. Above all odds, I certainly didn't think that would be the case, but he did. And CeeDee Lamb might compete with Michael Gallup for work. He might steal away some targets from Michael Gallup. So I do believe that CeeDee Lamb can be fantasy relevant right out of the gate. I also believe the same to be true in Denzel Mims, who just goes. Another consideration for me would have been Darius Slayton. I like the second-year talent in New York. Easy Daddy giving me the Michael Scott finger guns in the chat. So yeah, snipe, buddy. I like it. I like what you're doing there. I think I'm going to go tight end here if Chelly doesn't snipe me. And I know he's probably, if he's going tight end, going to go Hayden Hurst. And if he does go Hayden Hurst, I'm probably going to go Austin Hooper. But he goes Henry Ruggs. So Hayden Hurst would be the pick for me here. I know a lot of people are not in on Hayden Hurst. They don't believe that he's going to be able to ascend to the level that people think he's going to. Again, I could probably wait on him and get him in the next turn, but I've learned my lesson once in this draft, and so I'm going to get the guy that I really want on my team. And the reason I like Hayden Hurst is he's a mature player. He's not a rookie. Even though he's changing teams, he's been around the league for a handful of seasons. We have also seen that Dirk Cutter's offenses, especially last year in his time in Atlanta, are tight end friendly, and Matt Ryan has always had a decent, if not good, relationship with his tight end. And so I think Hayden Hurst has a ton of opportunity. We're saying about 90 vacated targets for him to take control of right out of the gate. I think Hayden Hurst is a great pick this year in most of your leagues and could be that upside piece that you need to win a league. Some of you will look at this and say, oh, well, Eric just got a steal on DeAndre Swift. Potentially. I'm not 100% sold that DeAndre Swift is going to come in and blow the doors off fantasy leagues. I think the Lions backfield has showed us since Sanders 20 years ago that they really aren't having any success on the ground trying to run the football. And as long as Matt Stafford is the captain of that ship, they're going to throw the ball. And he's got Kenny Golladay. He's got Marvin Jones, which are two, elite pieces at the wide receiver position. I do think that they're still going to have to rely on throwing the ball because between Green Bay and Minnesota, they're probably going to be down in their division. They're probably going to still be down in a majority of game scripts and are going to need to throw. And I just don't think that they have the strength of team. They don't have the strength, especially in the offensive line, to run the football like they want to do. I know they've committed in the past with their draft capital of going out and getting Kerryon Johnson and now DeAndre Swift, who is a great talent out of Georgia. I just don't see them being able to do it. Really don't. As much as it pains me to say. So, we come back. And I wouldn't mind another little insurance piece at the running back position. I only have 3 running backs, 4 wide receivers who I'm all, thrilled with, especially CeeDee Lamb. I am going to go to James White. And I know this isn't a sexy pick by any means, but James White, especially in a season where we might not see Sony Michel right out of the gate. Damian Harris is an unproven asset. Rex Burkhead and James White are going to see the football, especially through the air. I'm not saying that James White's going to be the guy that gets the carries. I'm saying that James White is going to be the check down machine that Cam Newton made so popular out of Christian McCaffrey in Carolina. And that's what I'm really, really psyched for. Okay, so I'm going to go James White in a PPR league. Do I like him over Cam Akers? No. But James White is more proven. And so I've already taken an upside shot on my tight end in Hayden Hurst and CeeDee Lamb in a rookie wide receiver. I'm trying to sort of, in especially this year where training camp is limited, there's no preseason. Rookies are going to take time to develop. And I really think James White will be a key piece down the stretch of opening games for the Patriots. I'm going to jump in on my quarterback number 3. In Superflex, I like to have 3 quarterbacks and two guys I believe in, Drew Lock, Teddy Bridgewater. I think Teddy Bridgewater most likely gets it done. So I'm going to go Teddy as my QB3. Not a bad draft so far. Certainly could have done a couple things better, but I like the mix that I have, and it's fairly balanced. Let's check in on Josh. He had a solid draft to start. Want to see what he's done since because I have not been paying attention. I've been, rambling. So after Mark Andrews, which I really like that pick, Brandon Cooks, Julian Edelman, Christian Kirk, rounding out that wide receiver core, and that's a reason why I like to go running back heavy to start because there's so much depth, especially in Superflex, because when you factor in the tight ends and the quarterbacks that are being taken ahead of ADP in regular redraft leagues, those wide receivers are going to get pushed even further back. And DJ Moore in the middle of the 5th is the perfect example of that. Marquise Brown going in the 7th. Juju Smith-Schuster going in the 8th. It's wild. It really is. And so, build your rosters out with running backs early, wide receivers later, pick up on that value. And I like the Mark Andrews piece he threw in. Sam Darnold, Drew Lock, just, insurance pieces to Lamar Jackson, also very streamable between the two to pick up some favorable matchups. Hopefully Sam Darnold finally has that breakout year that we have been looking for. I'm going to break down everybody's team at the end of this draft anyways. We've got 3 rounds left. For those of you that don't know the platform that we are using right now, it's called Sleeper. It is a pretty up-and-coming platform. A lot of people are now using it. The mock drafting is great. You don't have to wait for lobbies to fill up. You can do it by yourself. You can do it with friends. And I find the ADP to be quite accurate in terms of what you would see on Fantasy Football Calculator. So it's quick, it's easy. You can do a mock draft by yourself in about 5 to 6 minutes, depending on how fast you pick, and really play around with different scoring setting strategies and so on and so forth. Antonio Gibson just goes right there. I'm not shocked to see Taylor take his boy. I know he really likes Antonio Gibson. I'm going to do my best here to make a savvy pick. I know I haven't been overly invested in my draft picks, but that's what happens when you try to entertain people. Jalen Reagor, Jerry Jeudy, I would like to get a piece of one of those two. Deontay Johnson would be a consideration here, especially with Big Ben. I can stack those up, but I'm not so sure that he'll target Deontay Johnson like people think. Big Ben likes to go deep, and if you look back at the stats, he's been known to target James Washington downfield. So I feel like James Washington has a big playability this year, whereas Deontay Johnson is a little bit safer. I'm going to go with Jalen Reagor with the news that Marquise Goodwin has opted out and Alshon Jeffrey is on the PUP for 6 weeks. So they're already thin at wide receiver, and to have those two guys not be a part of their plans for the first 6 weeks of 2020, I think big bump to Jalen Reagor as well as JJ Arcega-Whiteside, who is essentially free in all drafts. Another guy that I really like here would be, where is he? Sorry. How did I scroll so far? Deontay Johnson. He fell to me. It's not a bad pick. I'm going to go there. Who else was I thinking of? Sorry, Paris Campbell. Another guy that I really like. Someone's got to be the complement to T.Y. Hilton. They lost Eric Ebron. He's gone to Pittsburgh. Someone's going to have to step up, and it's not going to be Jack Doyle. And so I think that either Michael Pittman Jr. coming in this year as a rookie or Paris Campbell as a sophomore, one of them are going to step up. My money would be on Paris Campbell. I'm going to go with Deontay Johnson just because I have Big Ben, and it gives me a nice piece to stack with. And Deontay falling to the 14th round is, again, criminal, crazy. There's been so much hype on this guy. It's wild to see him fall so far. Now, if you are in a league where these rounds here are, rounds 14 and 15 are being relegated for kicker and defense, and you're drafting a month away from fantasy football, your draft is this coming week, first week of August, do yourself a favor and take someone right now, like Chelly did, Jerry Jeudy, take a Josh Kelly, take a Tua Tagovailoa, take these guys that are rookies, unproven assets that could be the next guys up if, for whatever reason, there's an injury or COVID-19 happens or someone opts out because there's still 1 day left in the opt-out period. Take a guy that could ascend himself to higher value so that you can use him for trade pieces, you can use him for depth. If you take a kicker or a defense right now in your 14th and 15th round, which is where you should take them, but if you take them a month early, they're not going to accrue any value. Whereas, like I said, someone like a Jerry Jeudy or a Tua Tagovailoa could, or a Jalen Reagor could blossom into a really valuable piece that you can either, like I said, trade or have for depth. And depth is going to be so key this year. People, I think, are underestimating how tricky this year is going to be with COVID-19. I would expect you're going to have to drop players that you don't want to because your IRs are going to be full and you're going to be scraping the waiver wire. So off the top of my head, try to build a deep team, get those positional values, wide receiver, running back, build those positions up big time and save your fab. Really be sparingly with it. Use it strategically because you never know when it's going to come in handy. I'm going to look to the tight end position. Guys that I like here, Ian Thomas is one that we don't talk enough about, and just with Joe Brady and Matt Rule, Brady is a fantastic coordinator, and same with Matt Rule. Like the things that were done at LSU last year, unbelievable. Just using the skill sets of each individual player at their position to the best of your ability is what they're trying to do there in Carolina now. And Ian Thomas finds himself in a position that was once filled by Greg Olsen, who is a fantastic tight end. They're going to use so many pieces outside of Christian McCaffrey and DJ Moore. They're going to use their tertiary pieces like Curtis Samuel, Robbie Anderson, Teddy. He's going to be distributing the ball, but also Ian Thomas in that heavy tight end role that they've always had. Another guy that I really like is Jonnu Smith, who went a couple rounds ago to Chelly. He's been paying attention, but he's a guy that I really like. If Ian Thomas didn't fall to me here, which he did, Blake Jarwin, another guy that I like at this position. Eric Ebron would be a consideration again with my Big Ben pick. So I'm going to go Ian Thomas and close this draft out, and feel pretty decent about the team. I like the running back and wide receiver depth that we have, and I think we'll be pretty equipped to run a good season. I'm going to go through everyone's team, assign you a grade, and something that I would have done differently. Buck, Zeke, Kelsey, Allen start. Love the start. Like I said, you got that positional advantage in Travis Kelsey. Josh Allen, really nice mobile quarterback that gives you that safe rushing floor. Sutton, love Sutton. Would have went DJ Moore instead of Stephon Diggs. I personally, I think that was, a tough pivot, and I would have went DJ Moore happily. David Johnson coming back, not too bad. Matt Stafford was a nice pickup. Ronald Jones with that hype piece. So you've got Allen, Stafford, Carr. I think that's a nice trio to have, and some good running backs and wide receivers late down the stretch. I would give this team a solid B to maybe a B plus. I do like the Travis Kelsey is the piece that sort of makes me like it a little bit more, just because of his upside at the tight end position. But the only thing I would love to see is DJ Moore joining Courtland Sutton instead of Stephon Diggs. But that's pretty much it. Josh, I really like your team. Lamar Jackson, Sanders, Drake, Gurley, great trio of running backs. You can start all three every single week and feel like you have a really solid floor. DJ Moore, absolute, like the steal of the draft, middle of the 5th round, DJ Moore, and then Mark Andrews, who could be an elite level tight end in tier 1 with Kelsey and Kittle this year. I think it's great. And then you rounded out your wide receiver core with Cooks, Edelman, Kirk, grabbed Cohen, don't mind it, 2 quarterbacks late, and then took a flyer on Justin Jefferson in the final round, which is, again, a guy I'm talking about who will accrue value over the offseason towards the start of the year. So, man, this is a solid team. I'm gonna give it an A. Really solid A. Taylor's new to Superflex leagues. He was part of our listener league last year and has been a longtime friend of mine. And so this is uncharted territory for him. So Dalvin Cook, Dak Prescott. Would have been curious to see if he would have went Kyler over Dak given the choice, because he is a Cowboys fan. But I do like Dak there. Kittle, again, a steal in the 3rd. Chris Carson, looking at the running backs available, I think that's the appropriate pick. And then A.J. Brown, really good value on him. Tom Brady, I don't know if I would really love Tom Brady. I probably would have went Jared Goff, but I mean, people are going to see them about the same anyways in terms of production. So solid pick. Pick up your second quarterback. Marquise Brown, J.K. Dobbins, Sterling Shepard. Really like that run of players. Build some depth. A lot of startable pieces. I think Sterling Shepard is in for a solid return to form. Don't love the Matt Breida pick. But given what you had, I guess it wasn't a terrible pick. He will be used in a PPR setting. And then Dallas Goddard, great. Gibson, good flyer. Lynn Bowden, not sure how much he'll be used, but if anything, in the passing game. I'm going to give this one a B as well. I think over the practicing like you have been, this team is significantly better than any other teams that I've seen from you. Looking at Easy's team, right out of the gate, got that Adams-Rodgers stack, which is great. Kyler Murray, you know how much I like him. Probably easily a top 5 quarterback this year, especially given his rushing ability. Clyde in the 4th, really curious to see where he actually goes in Superflex leagues. I think this is a little low. And if you guys want more information on Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Landon just did a piece on him. He did a rant. We released it this morning. Check out our YouTube if you guys are already there right now. It was a pretty good segment, and we put some clips and highlights in there of him in college and what you can expect to see from Clyde Edwards-Helaire in Kansas City this year. So I think this is a little low for him, but a nice steal. Mostert was a good piece, and then Cam Newton, Juju Smith-Schuster in the 8th, and Gesicki in the 9th. Eric, I think you built yourself a really nice squad for the first 10 picks. Even DeAndre Swift is a nice upside piece. Higbee, McCoy, don't love the McCoy piece. Jarwin at the end, not bad. Not sure I would roster 3 tight ends. So I'm going to give this, just because of the third tight end, I'm going to give it a B to a B+. I do really, really like the core of your team, though. So you can probably trade some of those pieces and have something pretty solid. Skip over my team because that doesn't matter. And then Shelley, Henry, Fournette, Connor, Hunt, Taylor, and then 2 quarterbacks, Breeze and Ryan. Quarterback tandem, really, solid. How can you argue with Drew Brees and Matt Ryan, 2 of the most pass-heavy quarterbacks in the league, especially accuracy-wise. Drew Brees is best of all time. I do like the running back core. Let's see what you did with wide receiver late. Landry, Slayton, Ruggs, Jones. Landry gives you a nice floor. I do like the prospects of Slayton. Ruggs scares me a little bit. I'm just not sure how they're going to use him because Hunter Renfrow will take up the slot role, and Tyrell Williams is still there. The breakout of Bryan Edwards by Twitter, by their estimation, is inevitable. I don't really see it, but it's just going to be interesting to see where he finds himself, especially even Darren Waller being such a focal point of that offense. So tough to see. It might not be this year. But between him and Marvin Jones, you should have some weekly upside. Cam Akers was an unreal piece in the 12th. Jonnu Smith really like Jerry Jeudy, Hunter Renfrow, getting that insurance on Ruggs. Hate to say it, Bradley, but an A. Really, really solid. So I can't believe I talked for 45 straight minutes, but I tried my best. I'm losing my voice already. It's crazy. Just checking in on the YouTube chat. Unif Pogue, any spots left in your IG league? We unfortunately do not, sir. We are all filled up. But keep interacting with us. Keep subscribed. Like our videos. Leave comments. And hopefully we can get you in for next year. It's a great league. We already, just based off of the conversations we've had together so far, it's going to be a great league again. And you can ask Eric or Taylor or Buck, who are part of last year's league. An unreal time. Really, really great. We enjoyed it. It was probably the best league we played in all year. So I'm probably going to leave this stream at that. Again, thank you so much for those who stopped by. It looks like we got through the whole stream without any technical difficulties, so that's a great news as well. And hopefully you guys are well, staying safe, and stay tuned because we will do another one this week and some future videos to come. So stay safe, be good. See you guys in the next video, and take care.